Here we are with lesson 1, voice data video test instruments. If you are a part of my class, you have a socrative to do, and you have instructions for how to have done that socrative. You can see your book that will be required is Test Instruments and Applications 2nd edition textbook, chapter 3. So all of the information for this will be in chapter 3. After completing this lesson, you should be able to identify the types of conductors and cables used in voice data video communication and understand how signals are transmitted through them. Understand voice data video system terminology and testing methods. Identify the common types of copper and fiber optic cable problems and how to safely use test instruments to identify them. And identify the common types of wireless communication methods. There is a handful of courseware available to you that I will not be showing here. So let's go over to Socrative. And I do not have anybody taking this quiz right now. I will just be going through the quiz for you and explaining things. Feel free to message me in any of the ways that are available to ask questions. I am available to answer any questions. Screened twisted pair cables have a blank shield between the conductors and the outer jacket. Let's go into chapter 3 for this and start looking for screened twisted pair cables. Another way to find things in this book would be to use the index. Okay, I found it. It is on page 102 in that graphic. It's the SCTP cable. It has a cable jacket. It has a foil shield in between the conductors and the outer jacket. And this catches the electromagnetic interference and drains it off to protect a data signal from getting interference from outside conductors. An attenuation test determines the loss of each cable pair and is measured in decibels. And that is the power loss. You can find an attenuation test on page 111. It is about 3/4 down the page, and it is under voice data video test measurements, and that lists a bunch of different tests that you can find. The cable length test, the resistance test, the tone and probe test, the wire map test, and the attenuation test are all under there. Oh, there's more. The telephone test, the next test, propagation delay test, there's a ton of them. Alright, moving on. A common cause of signal loss in a fiber optic cable is, signal loss in a fiber optic cable is going to be, I'm going to say axial misalignment as my guess. Axial misalignment means that the beam of light is not going directly down the wire and it's bouncing off the sides. Let's find the fiber optic. Okay, here's the fiber optic section on page 125. There is, on page 126, is causes of signal loss. Axial misalignment has the cables just slightly out of sync with each other, and it means some of the light is hitting the connector and not the next wire. Moving along from there, wireless communication systems are capable of sending and receiving. This is a pretty straightforward one. We use wireless communication systems to send all of them, all of the above. I am not going to look that one up. That is a pretty straightforward one. So let's move on. Hardwired communication circuits use copper wire or to send and receive signals between various locations. I'm going to say fiber optic cables, yes. So that's a common thing. I would imagine it's at the very beginning of, on page 124, it says, similar to copper conductors and cable, fiber optic conductors and cable are used to transmit data from one location to another. Which is basically this exact question. A blank test is used to identify specific pairs of wires within a system. So that's going to be back in that around page 111, the different tests that are available. And I'm thinking that's a tone and probe test. That's a thing I've done before. Yes, it identifies, so back on page 111, like I had said, a tone generator is used to produce a signal at one end of a pair of wires, and a probe is used to identify the wire carrying the signal at the other end of the cable. Tone and probe testing is a method of tracing individual wire pairs in locations that include numerous cable pairs. I've used this in a number of situations, and it's always, hey, we're trying to figure out which one of these wires in this bundle is the wire we're looking for. You connect to the wire at one end, and then you go to wherever you need to know which wire it is, and you have, it looks almost like a no-contact voltage tester, but it has a speaker attached to it. And whenever you get close to that wire, the speaker starts playing a tone. This is also known as a fox and hound. A power loss of 10 decibels is the same as a power loss of, it will not be 10% for sure. It is on page 128. It's in a power attenuation measurements, and it gives you power loss percentage. So a power loss of 10 decibels is the same as 90% power loss. So 10 decibels is a huge amount of your power. Okay. A satellite blank meter is used to align a satellite receiving dish to the best position to receive the strongest signal. I have not looked up anything about, oh, satellite finder meter, right there, page 133, and that's word for word what's there. Page 133, satellite finder meters. A braided metal jacket in a coaxial cable provides a high degree of protection against, that's electromagnetic interference. Just like the foil shield on that first cable that we talked about, the metal jacket around a coaxial cable makes sure that there's not extra interference hitting that wire. Alright, the cable pairs in a copper communication cable are twisted at different rates to reduce problems from, that is crosstalk. So we've talked about induction. In a communication cable, they are inducing voltages on each other, and them being twisted at different amounts inside the cable will help nullify that induction, because each pair works together to send a signal, and all the induction is just kind of canceled out while they're twisted. It's a little bit more in depth than that, but the twisting of, like in a Cat5 cable, or for those of you that don't know what that is, a network cable that you use to connect your computer to the internet jack on the wall, that serves a purpose, and you want to untwist as little as possible whenever you are making those connections. That's going to be back towards the earlier part of the book, around page 105, 110. The CAT category rating of a cable determines the conductors. This is on page 104, and it is bandwidth. The higher the category of cable, the more bandwidth you can carry on it. So right now, category 7 carries 1000 megabits per second, and category 8 carries 40 gigabytes per second. Category 7 wire is something that people do install places, but my house would never use that, or isn't going to use it for a while. Whenever I built my house, I installed Cat 6 cable, because that seemed to be way more than enough than what I would use. Alright, let's finish this one, and I will see you guys for the next lesson.